Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's B. Avery here for another episode of Just My Opinion. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. And we are coming to the end of the season for Lovecraft Country, Season 1, Episode 9, titled Rewind 1921. And just to let you know, guys, this is going to be a spoiler-filled recap. I'm going to talk about this episode as if you've already seen it. So I'm going to spoil it up, down, left, right, in, and out again as if you've already seen the episode. So if you haven't, please press pause, put this video in your watch later list, subscribe to the channel, go catch up on the episode, then come back for all this spoilery goodness. You have been warned. Now, we have this episode right here with Rewind 1921. I think even before we saw this, we knew that they were going back to Tulsa, Oklahoma, the 1929 riots where they destroyed the town, the racist white supremacists. Very, very unfortunate. Wasn't in our history books. And that's one of the things that did get me excited about this episode. Overall, I did think it was a great episode. It wasn't the best. When I say that, I just mean it wasn't my favorite. And one reason I say that is because there's a part of it that I don't want to just say it'll be difficult for me to rewatch, but that rewatchability factor is just not as high as some other episodes throughout this series. Now, I will go ahead and say this early on, something that I'm just not a fan of the show entirely, and they kind of did this again, transitioning from episode 8 from 9. I don't like the way they wrap up the cliffhangers that was left on the previous episode. At the end of episode 8, we're left with the cliffhanger. You know, the monster comes out of the ground because the protection spell works for Atticus. It destroys all the police, and then the final shot is when he has his hand up against the monster's face, and then it cuts to the credits. Well, right as that scene was beginning, you know, the police start shooting a barrage of bullets into the house, into Letty's house, and there are more than a few black people in that house. I mean, it wasn't just Letty and Ruby. There was a number of residents there. So they were witness to all the cops, all the bullets, and possibly the monsters. And so I kind of wanted to see a follow-up with them and like what their reaction was, and just like, well, why are these cops shooting at us? You know, what's this magic about? Where did this explosion come from? Why is there a monster and blood and guts all over the place outside in the middle of the street? I kind of wanted to see how they followed up with the protection spell. Like, does the monster just go back into the ground? I imagine that he does. I'm sure that Tick doesn't just snap his fingers and, you know, he goes into like a Pokeball or something like that. But I wanted to see that, and that's not, we don't get to see that, and this is one of the things that's kind of frustrates me. It's not a big deal. It doesn't make me, you know, just really hate the show and bring it down a number of stars, but that is something that I was looking forward to coming into this episode. And like when I was getting into the midpoint, I was like, okay, I guess they're not going to follow up with that and see these reactions. That's kind of a bummer. It was something I was looking forward to. However, I do like how that things picked up with Dee, because at the end of last episode is when Montross are trying to hold her down. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't see the two girls, Topsy and I forget the other name. And we see that one of them is biting Dee in the arm. And as soon as this episode opens up, you know, we find that, well, we knew that she was cursed, but we see the after effects of that, and things are just not going well for her at all. So we got Letty, Tick, Montrose, and Ruby all around her body, just trying to figure out what's going on, and they don't know, and they're arguing and they're blaming each other. And you know, I also go ahead and say, as far as like Tick's character, I mean, I like him overall, but at the same time, he's kind of starting to get on my nerve. Like, I'm kind of like siding with Letty here as far as his decision making, because he's like, well, hey, we don't know what we're doing, we got to call Christina. And, you know, I don't mind him bringing that up as an idea, so the whole group, because y'all are in this together, have to figure this out. But he's like, well, I said what I'm going to say, and I'm going to call Christina. I'm going to give her the pages. And he's just like, you know, like not really considering anybody else's thoughts or anything like that. And he's done that throughout the whole series, you know. And I mean, it's a very stressful time, and, you know, that's something that he needs to work out. I don't hate him for that, but that's just something that stood out to me, to where if I was any of the other supporting characters, I'd be like, bro, you need to chill out, man. You're doing too much. You know, you're not the boss. Or I don't know. Do y'all think he's kind of out of line there? Or you think he's, you know, in his place? Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. But Letty lets all of them know, like, hey, I already gave the pages away to Christina, And Montrose he's not having it or whatever. He's pretty upset because Letty went back on the words. It's like, you said no more magic. And he just like charges at her. And I love the way that Tick stepped in, with them E Honda hands, like, hold on, back up, dude, back up. I also like the way that Ruby popped up, back your ass up, or whatever she said, and then at the same time, if you look at Letty's face, she was just like, looking like this too, like, dude, did you know I'm invulnerable now? Even if she wouldn't, Letty, I bet, got them hands, And so I kind of just like how all of them like stood up for Letty. Now, I don't think that Montrose was going to hit her. I say that because we find out that Ruby thought that later on, when she was outside about to get into the car with Christina, but we'll talk about that in a second. But I personally don't think that Montrose was about to hit her. I could be wrong. I think he was just about to get in her face. I'm not saying that they should have allowed him to do that. No, still, if he's about to get in her face and, doing all this number right here, and they sort of, you need to split them apart. So again, kudos to Ruby and kudos to Tick. But I don't think he was going to hit her. What do y'all think? So they call Christina. She shows up looking like the spawn of Satan in her red dress, all crazy and such. And they're asking her, hey, can you remove the spell? And I like how they kind of have the rules set up as far as the spells. You can't just, there's rules that you have to follow and some type of code. And you can't just say some words and everything ends up your way. She was like, this was a combination of Titus's lost pages and Horatio's lost pages as well. Also, Lancaster sealed the curse in his body, and they can't remove it without him. But she's like, I can do a restoration spell, which she'll still be cursed, but it'll start the cycle over. So that could prolong her death. And, they're just kind of like out of options. And I like all that. And they're just trying to figure it out. Christina then kind of proceeds to give them instructions. Like, I need all of y'all to have intent purposes for casting this spell. Draw this shield around the whole apartment. Try to get her temperature back to normal, et cetera, et cetera. And I like all that. I like that. I've been making jokes throughout this whole thing, talking about they're going to be throwing key blasts, talking about abracadabra and stuff. And that would be cool if they were doing that and throwing beams of magic out their hands or whatever, lightning bolts, whatever. But, this isn't Star Wars or Dragon Ball Z or anything like that. So, I kind of find it weird for me to say they're using magic in a realistic way, but I think you guys understand what I'm trying to say when I say that. If not, let me know down in the comment section below. And right here, guys, we really see how sick and demented these evil, racist, white supremacist demons are within the police department, because I thought that Lancaster was dead, but apparently he's not. And we find out that all these cops are using this magic in their police station, and they're kidnapping black people, and they use the N-word, they kidnapping niggas and using their body parts to prolong their life. And, we saw that earlier. I think that was episode 5, to where Lancaster was in his office and he was unbuttoning his shirt, and we saw that he had like black body parts, and it was like, what the hell is going on? And I'm assuming that the person in the closet was just another body that they abducted, but I don't think that was a black person. But it's just disgusting, man. They literally have limbs and torsos and hatchets on the table, blood everywhere, and them exchange. It's just that these people are sick. And, this is 99, 100 years ago, but I hope this is not going on, but somewhere in the world, but I would not be surprised if somewhere in the entire world, there's just a group of evil, racist, white supremacist demons that are doing this to black people. We kind of saw a hint of that in the Antebellum movie that is on demand right now, with them kidnapping black people. We know that sex trafficking is real. Bodies are missing every day. So who's to say that they're not cutting them up either? It's a sad reality, but unfortunately, this is the world we live in. And, kind of seeing this in this episode right here is very triggering. But, we see William come in and they're surprised, like, oh, you're supposed to be dead. And he does enjoy Lancaster's last moments of dying. And it's just kind of interesting, like, the magic that the cops are trying to use is not working. Because no matter, like William said, no matter how many times they trade out the body parts, the wounds will still come back. And so maybe, they don't, I'm pretty sure if they had the whole book of names, which we'll talk about later, they could possibly find some way to cure Lancaster or get rid of the wounds that hurt him or potentially killed him. But whatever they're doing right now is not working. And William just kind of rubs it in. Well, William, Christina, whatever the hell this thing is, he really just rubs it in. Just like, I have 1,000 deaths with myself, William, dying every day. This is what I wanted from you. And he just looks him in the eye and just watches Lancaster dies. And he really does get off on that. And I'm just like, wow, that's just, crazy. Just, I mean, I would probably get off on a death too if somebody murdered me and I came back and I was able to watch them die. So I would probably get off on that too. Just being honest, what do you think? And oh boy, oh man, what we have right here with Montrose and Tick is something else. He's down there drinking like, I think they made a joke saying this is like, gasoline. And, we know that Montrose has been holding back secrets for the longest. There's been so much speculation about, is Montrose the real dad of Tick, or is it George? And we find out right here that, he doesn't know if his blood is going to be able to help Diana. And he goes ahead and reveals to Atticus, to Tick, that, hey, George may be your daddy. And like the acting from Tick, from Jonathan Majors right now, I was just like, whoa, man. I was pretty affected by that. I was convinced. That's just a revelation right there that he wasn't expecting. It just came out of nowhere. I mean, things are just continue to be piled on with these characters, and they just have to, kind of take it all in. And I just kind of find that very interesting, But the acting was tough. He did his thing. He was coming through with the performance. And I love his reaction. He just didn't know how to take it. He's, oh, shit. Oh, shit. And the first thing he said, I believe, was, so Mama cheated on you with Uncle George. And he's like, well, it didn't necessarily go down like that. And he was like, we survived the riots. When we survive something like that, it creates some type of bond between us. And so, and I'm not trying to be funny, guys, or I'm just not. But for one, help me out here in the comments. I'm assuming that they all had some group session, later on that night, in the episode of 1921, or I don't know, it could have been days after, weeks after. But at the same time, how old were those characters? Okay, because they don't look like they were even in high school. They kind of look like they was in junior high. But how old in the present day of this show, it's 1955. They're going back 34 years to 1921. And so when we see baby Dora, who is Tick's mother, we see not baby Dora, but younger Dora. When we see little George and we see little Montrose, how old do you think they are? Because at just that age, unless I'm just completely interpreting this the wrong way, I just kind of find it weird that, they was possibly having sex at that age. Maybe it was later on, maybe he was saying that bond was created that night. And I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not even going to try to figure it out anymore. But that's just kind of crazy to me. I'm really just trying to understand that, so y'all can help me there. But it's crazy, Tick, he's just like, whoa, man, you putting this on me now? I used to forget. Well, no, that's later on. But he says that I used to hide over here from your butt whoopings, wishing George was my real daddy. And, I used to forgive him and my mom for not protecting me, from your whoopings. And he ends up being my real dad. And, that's just a lot to take in. That's a lot to take in. And what do we know? Letty comes in and she hears everything. And I like that because, we have exposition with a group of characters, and it's not like the information is delivered and then they have to tell Christina at a later time and then tell the next character at a later time. They're all finding out together, and that just kind of helps the story move forward. So I like how they did that, and it was natural too. Christina showed back up, and she just came downstairs to let them know. And as they're, what do we know right now? Again, Hippolyta pops up out of nowhere, and I'm just like, oh, Hippolyta, yes. And she's like, D is sick, and like everybody's like walking in at the last moment just to hear this news being dropped, these bombs being dropped. And so we get the next shot with Christina. They're doing the magic. Of course, they can use Hippolyta's blood because, of course, she's the mother of Diana, of D. And it's just gross. We get the maggots coming in the hand, out of the arm, of Diana with the flies everywhere. And, I guess the restoration spell worked for the most part. And I just have to say, I really like the way that the episode is progressing right now. And I'm just kind of saying, like, man, this is a good ass episode. Things are moving fast and I love it. But going back, real quick to the conversation that Montrose and Tick were having, I like the dialogue too, because Montrose is feeling bad and he was like, George's last words for me to protect my family. And Tick was like, well, you are, you were the one that set the protection spell. You're going to give the blood. And, that was the, when he revealed it right there. But I do like that, there was some type of, acknowledgement or recognition there from Tick to his father, who we thought at the time. So there's a little bonding right there between the characters I did like as well. And you also just got to love Hippolyta's face as soon as she comes in. Is Dee sick? And she just like, what the heck? I mean, any mother would do that with their child. I mean, that's common. That's just not common knowledge. And as far as Ruby is concerned, her character continues to disappoint me. But I can say I'm done with her. I mean, seriously, she just continues to drink the Kool-Aid, the coon juice. I mean, that ship has sailed. Unless she comes through strong in the last episode to save the day, I'm done with her, man. She's a coon now. Like, seriously, I just can't. She's following Christina around like a little puppy dog, and she's just convinced like Christina is really her friend. It doesn't make any sense. As soon as they do the restoration spell for Dee, she's like following Christina outside in the parking lot, and Lady's like, hey, Ruby, and like she turns around and looks at her sister like, what? Like, what do you want? Why are you bothering me? Let me follow my white supremacist master. Like, why are you trying to keep me from it's just disgusting. And she's just like, wait a minute. You need to be getting in the car with us. Lady's like, you think you can trust Christina? You think you can trust Tick and his crazy ass daddy in there? You saw how he approached you. Like, I don't think that Montrose was going to hit her. He was just upset because they're going to, you understand what they're going up against. White supremacists, wizards and witches and warlocks and monsters. I mean, this is crazy. But Ruby is just so convinced, like, wait a minute. I mean, it's like, how are you letting this game be ran on you? She's like, well, if you're telling your sister, hey, Letty, if you get out your feelings, you're the one that's in your feelings. Did you see what you did the last episode and that crazy sex scene? You're the one in your feelings. It doesn't make sense. I can't even talk right now. I'm so frustrated. I'm like, he shot me by her father, and then she healed you, and then made you invulnerable. You the one need to get, like, Ruby. She is using y'all, man. She is using you. Why can't everybody see that, but you can't see that? I mean, I'm just over it. So she proceeds to get to the car, and then fast forwarding when she's down there, like, this is where when they were down in the basement, and she was asking, who that white woman was in the bed. And she told him, like, hey, this was the white woman that was in charge of the grounds at my father's house in episode 2 that Letty came and hit over the head with the shovel. And, that's how they get the potion. And, like she was asking, Ruby was asking Christina, like, do you plan on killing Atticus? Christina just said, well, yeah, I mean, his blood is something that I need on the autumnal equinox, and I need all of it. And so, he's a sacrifice. And basically, like, look, as soon as he stepped onto our land a long time ago, it was just already written in that he was going to die. It was inevitable. The only variable was time. And Ruby just puts her head down and takes it and just like, hey, promise me that you won't hurt my sister. And I'm like, oh, hell no. You don't win a coon train now. I just can't F with you no more. I just can't. And then you go over there like, yeah, every time I imagine being a white woman, I wanted to be a redhead. I'm done. Ruby, you are cast out. You are cast out. Look, I have no sympathy for coons. Death to all coons. We would not be in this mess that we're in today in real life if it wasn't for coons. So I just can't get down with it. If you're a coon, unsubscribe right now because I don't want you here. But Ruby, again, because she hasn't actually thrown anybody under the bus yet. So she better come through in the last episode with some superhero black girl magic empowerment stuff, or she's out of there, and I'm just done. Now, honestly, guys, I think this next scene right here is my favorite out of the whole entire episode. One, because of the music. It really does give you that adventurous setting, and I love that. But the way that Hippolyta is just so determined to save her daughter, just like, everybody shut up and move the hell out the way. You know what I'm saying? I'd have been at Earth 504 for 200 years. I left like this and I came back with all of this empowerment and like knowledge of the universe. I mean, like it's dope. I'm like loving, like they're like, hey, what's the source of magic? The Book of Names. Where's the Book of Names? It's gone. What does that mean? It's gone. What does that mean? I need to know. And well, we can't go back to the observatory. Yes, we can. It'll take me 3 to 4 hours to fix it. It'll take us 6 hours to get there, 24 hours before D is dead. But wait, we don't have a key. I got an Infinity Stone. You know what I'm saying? The purple space stone. What's up? And like, I'm like, F Thanos, you know? And at first, Tick thinks it's a time machine, but she says that it's a multiverse machine. And it's both to me, because they actually went back to 1921. And with the multiverse, I mean, of course, I'm familiar with that, you know, because I love comic books and stuff. And so, you know, you watch Marvel and DC or anything like that, you know, the multiverse theory. But at first I was like, okay, this has to be a time machine too, because if it's a multiverse machine and they were going back to 1921, it would be a different parallel Earth, and whatever happened on that parallel Earth wouldn't affect what's happening on our Earth. So I think it's a multiverse machine, but at the same time, you can go back and set it up to, you know, certain times or whatever. That's something that confused me at first, but then it clicked. And so it's a multiverse time machine all in one. And I just love, like, just the way that Hippolyta is moving. Like I said, she's like, y'all either can help me or get the hell out of my way. I would do it by myself. You know, when Montrose was like, wait a minute, you're saying that you want to, like, the way that she just paused, like, I already told you, Negro. Now get in the effing car. You know, I'm like, yes. I'm loving her character. You know, so now they're at the observatory, and, you know, Montrose is outside, and you can hear the flashbacks in his head of his father beating him, which we actually see later on in the episode. Then they shoot over to the observatory, and they're just kind of fixing that. And I was laughing at this as well, because when they fix it, I think Letty was like, okay, no. She was like, we need a motherboard, and Lady was like, how do we do that? And she's like, I'm the motherboard, and she pulls out her wrist, and she has like 2 Infinity Stones on her wrist, and like when the camera backed out and showed Letty's face, she was like, oh, okay, big time, I see you doing big things over here. That's what's up. And so I like that, and I don't know, I just like this scene right here too, just showing Hippolyta, because, you know, was it episode 7 where she was going around the multiverse at the beginning? We found out that, you know, she kind of had some identity issues and felt like she was shrinking, but now she's just running the scene with all this interior knowledge and universal knowledge, fixing this multiverse time machine, taking charge. There's the boss on the whole scene, on the whole show. And I just like all the energy that she's putting out right now, and I want more and more of that. I also like the conversation that Letty and Montrose was having together. Like, she felt bad and was like, hey, there was a reason why I took the invulnerability spell. And he's like, hey, because you're pregnant, and, you know, Tick went to the future too. And the reason why he didn't tell you is because, you know, he's trying to save his son, and, you know, I'm really happy that she didn't get upset right there as well, that he was holding back some information. But, you know, Montrose was like, look, you giving those pages away could cause the death of my son. And so, you know, this is dangerous. He didn't say this, but I'm assuming this is what he was thinking. Like, you know, this is why, you know, I'm just trying to stay away from all this magic stuff. I still think that there's some type of secret that he's holding back. I'm not entirely sure. We'll see in the last episode, which comes out next week, of course. But yeah, I think he's still holding some things back, but, you know, we'll just have to see. I also just like the way that Hippolyta was just like, y'all need to squash this beef. When she was like, I need a picture, you know, so I can try to triangulate back to 1921. I don't know why Montrose was not Montrose, but I don't know why Tick was tripping right there and kind of snatched the picture from him, you know, out of his hand. But Hippolyta was like, y'all need to squash this. She told him what to do. She, you know, turns on the machine, and she's powering up or whatever. And she's powering up, and then they proceed to jump through the portal. And I really kind of feel sorry for Montrose right here. This is really developing his character within this episode, because what this episode is asking him to do is literally relive, you know, his worst nightmare, you know. I mean, the history is so bad and hidden that, you know, a lot of us didn't even know about the 1921 massacre 5 years ago, 10 years ago, etc. You know, this is fresh information for a lot of people. I didn't grow up knowing it. His character went through this. And so, I mean, this episode right here just kind of just lets me know that, like, Black people, we need therapy. We do, collectively, as a whole. That's just something that I don't think our group ever took seriously coming up, or at least in my age and my group. I don't know about you out there, but I always kind of grew up hearing things of like, oh, therapy, that's that white people shit. You know, if you can relate, comment below, let me know. But I'm kind of jumping ahead. I couldn't save this anymore because later on in the episode where we see them pulling up to the crib and we see little Montrose getting his butt whooped by his daddy. And the character's name is William Catlett. And when I was watching, I was like, where do I know this dude from? But, he was Latavius Lala in the Black Lightning series that's on CW. I like him as an actor. I didn't really care for his character. But it was really sad seeing Montrose tripping, skeptical, reticent to go into the portal because he didn't want to relive that. As soon as he went through the portal, he's remembering all these horrible times. And, as they're all changing clothes, getting a feel of what's going on, trying to blend in, going through the alley. He's remembering all this. And, Atticus he's letting his asshole nature come out. He kind of just charges up his daddy. He's not really considering his feelings right now. He's like, out of all time, D, right? Because earlier, bro, you was praising him, saying that, hey, because Montrose was saying like, hey, George's last words were for me to look out for the family. And then Tick proceeded to say, well, you did the protection spell. You're going to give your blood for D. You're doing this, you're doing that. But then when they get to the portal, basically in the alley, Tick is like, you ain't shit. Why? Just because he paused for a moment and, he was a little tipsy. That's just but at the same time, I understand how frustrated you are, Tick. You just found out that this dude is not your dad. You also have to blame your mother, who is not here, and George as well. They were in on the secret too. It wasn't just Montrose, but, he was beating your ass. It's just so much going on between all these characters that creates this tension, this animosity that they have between each other. And it's unfortunate, but it's just the reality that they're living in. And, it is entertaining and engaging seeing it all play out in front of us too. But as Montrose is tripping in the alley and just Tick goes off on him, he's just really not considering his feelings and just everything that the man went through. He went through a lot of trauma and beatings and neglect. And, we're all products of our environment. And we especially see that with Montrose's character right here. So when they go up to the house and then they see Montrose getting his ass beat by his daddy, that really bothered me. I'm like, man, that's just horrible. And you can see that Letty and Tick are just, trying to be a little bit more empathetic and understanding of Montrose and his motivations, what makes him tick and, go about his day. I didn't think that the beating had to, they made their point. Also, this kind of just shows this my parents whipped my butt coming up and I think I turned out okay. They never beat me. I never got a whooping and I didn't know why I was getting a whooping. They never whooped me when they were angry. They didn't hit me across the head or throw a curling iron or anything like that. It was just always a belt on my bottom. And I just see how to say, like, a lot of people say that we shouldn't whoop our kids. That comes from slavery. It was beat into us. I was thinking about that when I was seeing this episode. And it was like, get a switch. And, that audio, that dialogue was repeated throughout the whole series so far, the whole season, as Montrose is remembering his father. And so, I don't know. It was a tough scene for me, seeing him getting beat like that. At the same time, I don't know why his neighbors did not want to jump in. We saw them leaning back on the chair. This is rocking in the chair on their porch. But this is when young Dora comes out and her father. This is where we also see baby Montrose. I don't know why I keep wanting to call him baby. Little George. And we also see, what is her name? Bula, who I believe is the sister of Dora, and Dora is the mother of Tick, of Atticus. And so, yeah, it's just, a really touching scene right here that kind of broke my heart in a number of ways. Yeah, but Montrose, they think he's trying to, change the past, to change the future. And, of course, they can't have that. They got to split up between Letty and Tick. And this is the moment that they have between each other as they look in each other's eyes before he drives off. They're like, we got to name him George. And, I just really wish they could have hugged and kissed right there. I'm glad that they didn't, because they're in a rush and that wouldn't have been. It's like, what are y'all doing? But it was just one of those moments where I wish they could have, but they couldn't. I understand that. But now we have Tick. He finally catches up to Montrose, and Montrose is not. It's like, I like this scene, but I think it was just too long. He really wanted to save his friend Thomas that was shot in the face. This show is really crazy with the racial slurs. At one point they was calling black women nigger bitches, and this one they called a black person a nigger faggot. nigger names. It's crazy. But that's right. That's what they said right before Thomas was shot in the face, and Montrose was telling Thomas, and he's reacting the story to Tick like, hey, I was telling him right here that we can't be friends anymore because you're a faggot and I'm not. And Thomas was hurt by that, and that's just unfortunate. And he was really wanted to save him. And Tick was like, look, I'm sorry that happened to your friend, but we can't change the future. We just can't do that. And you're taking a big risk. You really have to think about that. And he's like, it's not that big a deal. It's just Thomas. He's like, dude, it really is. You just really need to chill out right now. And this is kind of like where George comes in and saves the day. And Montrose says something right here, just like, look, he's just the first of sacrifices I made to be your father. And that really did break Tick right there. And just like, man, I mean, he's mad at him, but the love really came out in between them too. Now, I need y'all's help right here. This does not make sense to me. In the last episode where Tick and Montrose was having the conversation on the steps, and that's when he first gave him the Lovecraft Country book, and he was talking to him about the pastor and telling him that he didn't want to reveal his gay feelings or his hidden lifestyle because he didn't want to end up dead, in jail, or in an asylum. So when he says this line right here, he's just the first of sacrifices I made to be your father. I'm trying to think how the conversation went back in that time for them to make that decision that he would be the father. Did they nominate him to be the father of Dora's child, Tick, Atticus, so that he could hide, him being a homosexual? I mean, even if they knew that George was the father at that time when she was pregnant, or that when Tick was born, you didn't have to be you could have, I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing that, hey, if I marry Dora, or if I say that this is my child, that everybody will think that I'm not gay. But I think that you could have still done that without pretending that you was George's father. I mean, that you was Tick's father. I could be completely wrong. I could be saying to yourself, Brandon, it's so obvious because this XYZ ABC is not registering for me right now. So maybe y'all can help me down in the comment section below. But it's really nice though. And this is where it was getting really good because Montrose was saying, okay, this is part of the story that I didn't tell nobody. There was a mysterious figure that came out of nowhere and was just beating people in the head with the bats. And that ended up being Tick. I'm really wondering how this went on with the timeline and the multiverse and time travel and things like that. And maybe that'll be addressed later. I just can't wrap my head around it right now. But, Tick thought that they messed something up, but when he found out that he was the one, the savior, to go and beat their ass, I mean, he kicked the bat. It was like clink, clink. And then he looked down at it and they started playing the music. Dun, 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 dun. And he looking down at the bat and he looked up like, I'm the one that gets to whoop their ass. And, that's what Munch was like, you're the one. And he went from like a stoic face to just, his face was just glowing like, and then he ran over there. Did y'all hear him growl? He was like, ah! It's like, yes. Oh, I wish I could have that moment he had, going up the side of the white supremacist head with the bat. Doesn't get any better with that. But that was actually my favorite part of the episode right there, just him going to town. And as he's done, like Montrose told him, he was like, I got you, kid. That also translates back to episode 1 at the very beginning, where Jackie Robinson came through and saved him from the big monster, the Cthulhu, or I forget how it's pronounced. And he was like, I got your kid as well. And so I just kind of, I thought that was interesting too. But that was beautiful with the bat. I loved it. I wish I can see more of that. One of my favorite scenes of all movies is Django Unchained when Jamie Foxx is beating the slave master with the whip. I love that scene. That's just, it kind of reminded me of that too. Now, going back to Letty, she's trying to go to the house to get the book of names. She wants the power. And she's getting chased by these white supremacists. They shoot her. She falls down, but she's not hurt because she's invulnerable. And this is where Montrose's daddy comes out with his shotgun or rifle, just starts unloading bullets on him, boom, boom. And I loved it. I love seeing black people with guns shooting at racist white supremacists. I loved it all day. But to all my gun experts, my gun enthusiasts out there, my professionals, I'm not a professional, but to all my professionals out there, if you notice that Montrose's daddy came out and started shooting the gun, but then Dora's dad came out on the porch and started shooting too, as far as like tactical, strategic procedures, how do y'all feel about that? Because I was like, oh my gosh, watch out. I didn't want Montrose's daddy to get in his line of sight and get shot in the back of the head. That's just something that stood out to me. If I'm tripping, please let me know. But I like all of this right here. You know, they go back in the house and, you know, he about it. I mean, I didn't like his character earlier because he was beating his son, but I like him right now because he's like, well, we need to get these guns, you know, protect our people, da-da-da-da. He going to the drug, here, you're passing out guns, all that. I'm loving all of that. And I really feel sorry for Letty because she knows that all of them are about to die. She knows that they're all about to get burnt up in the house because they said that as soon as they came through the portal. And she, you know, she hears them trying to make it, but she can't say anything like, y'all get out the house, they're finna set it on fire because that could possibly change everything, you know. And, you know, she wants to exist. She wants Tick to exist, you know, because George and Dora haven't hooked up yet, you know, and she's pregnant, you know, with the baby as well. So she just kind of has to, you know, play it dumb. And, you know, the elder, I think her name was Mary, I could be wrong, was looking at her shoes and like, what the hell is going on? But what was so sad about, not Dora, but Bula, I believe this is Dora's sister. You know, she was jealous that Dora was the one that got to go to prom with George. And it's just so sad because she's so oblivious. She's like, oh, we'll be fine. My daddy is the best sharpshooter in the land, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I was a brat early and I'm going to apologize and, you know, and and everything is just going to be okay. And Letty can't say anything. She's like, you have no idea that what's happening right now. You have no idea that you're about to die. And she can't say anything. And that just that really sucks because they just have no idea what's going on. But as Letty's trying to go through the crib looking for the book of names, I mean, it's so obvious. She gets caught looking through drawers. And the elder comes in there, hey, girl, what are you doing? And she tried to play it off like, oh, I'm just looking for a better view. My ass, you were in the drawers over there. What kind of, you trying to shoot him through the drawers? Like, no. And she, you know, points the gun. I got tickled right there. And she has no choice but to kind of tell her the truth. She's like, I'm looking for the book of names. She's like, the only good book I know is the New Testament, and proceeds to point the gun. And then she just kind of has to let her know, you know, what her plan is. And, you know, she proves herself. And I kind of like that as well. I like how she was charging them up too. Like, you know, you was off from the start. I ain't never seen no shoes like that. Who are you? And where are you coming from? And all that. I loved all the energy right there. But it's just sad that Letty can't do anything. I mean, she was like, you know, we're about to die in this house, aren't we? She was like, yeah. And she's like, I just can't stand here and let them kill us. And, you know, I understand that. And it's sad. I really wish that we could have, I mean, even if they had to die and then they did in real life, I really wish we could have got a few shots of them just shooting a few white supremacists in the face or something. Just give us a few more images of them fighting back. That just would have been nice, but, you know, whatever. I guess we can't have it all. You know, got nothing. But anyway, you know, she ends up giving her the book of names and protecting it. And it's just, that really stood out to me too, because it was burnt up initially. And I'm just saying to myself, there's just so much history and artifacts about our land and lineage and history that has been lost throughout time. And only if we still had access to it, where would we be today? Something that I did not like is seeing her being burnt up like that. I did not want to see that burning body. They tried to play some nice song, poetic melody in the background, I guess, to make you feel good. But I did not want to see the imagery of her burning up like that. That was just too much for me. I kind of turned away a little bit like, this is horrible. I don't want to see this. But, you know, I guess it is what it is. And it was just like, I just don't like the sacrificial element of it. She was just standing there and they said a prayer. She's like, I'm ready. And then she just proceeded to burn up, you know. And guys, this episode really just put things in perspective for me. This episode is taking place in 1921. This was 99 years ago, 100 years. I think she even had a line of dialogue like, please, my great-great-grandson is my faith. Why? It made me think like, black people, why are we living like this? We don't deserve it. We don't. I mean, literally centuries on centuries of oppression for nothing. We didn't do anything. We didn't do anything to deserve it. I mean, we should be number one. We built this country. They keep taking from us. You know, everything that Montrose was revealing, all this trauma that he went through, also ties back to episode 8, where he was outside of the door talking to Dee through the door, talking about, yeah, when I was your age, I lost a lot too. These white people, they just keep taking from us and just don't make it easy. Man, I don't want to live. I'm not going to live like this for the rest of my life, where we're just continue to be oppressed. Okay, get educated in all 9 areas of activity. I know I'm stepping out the recap right now, but hey, That's just what I'm doing right now. You know, economics, education, entertainment, labor law, politics, religion, sex, war / counter war / self-defense. Get your goddamn gun, get your rifle, get your shotgun, and learn how to use that motherfucker. Because, I mean, the writing is on the wall. This is what we're dealing with right here in 1921 and also in 2020. And I don't want to be dealing with this in 2045 and 2065 and all that crap. I don't want, if I don't have any children, but I'll be damned if I have kids and when they 20, 25 years old, they ask me, Brandon, what was you doing when all this shit was going on in the world? George Floyd, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, hey, I was doing X, Y, and Z. And if all of us would be able to say that, we won't be in this mess 20, 30 years from now. So, I just don't, fuck that. I'm tired. I don't want to live like this no more. Get on code, do what you have to do because this is stupid. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is literally crazy. So, anyway, you know, we're coming up towards the end of the episode here and we have Tick and Montrose running through the city, trying to avoid all of the violence, all the mayhem, them fighting back these racist white supremacists. We did get a few shots of black people shooting back with their guns in the street, and I did like that imagery. You know, just wish we could have got a little bit more. But as Montrose and Tick are going back into the room where the portal was and Tick jumps through, it really did affect me seeing Hippolyta struggle like that. She's sweating, you know, she's foaming at the mouth. Oh, I can't hold it. I don't know. They just like really bothered me and made my skin crawl. I just wanted to like jump through the screen and kind of like hug her and take care of her or something like that. The portal closes and Tick is like, you got to open it up. Do it for D. Do it for D. And then we cut to Letty like walking through the street holding the book of names. And I'm just sitting myself, woman, if you don't hurry your ass up, like, what are you doing? You need to be running. You've been running throughout this whole season, this whole series with your track speed, you know, with your big, nice calves and all that. And I love that. But why do you want to walk right now in the middle of the street? It just like that bugged the hell out of me. Now, it was very nice imagery showing the planes, you know, coming down and, you know, dropping bombs. I mean, that's horrible, but seeing her engulfed in flames but not being affected by it, that's what was beautiful. It was nicely shot, but the actual, you know, account of it was horrible. But I was just like, woman, you need to hurry up. But then Hippolyta goes, he powers up again, goes upstairs, her eyes turn white, and she just really powers up one more time and opens up the portal. We see that her hair is turning blue, so she turns, and I believe her hair changed to the color of the character that was on the front of Dee's comic. Montrose and Letty jump through the portal, and then, you know, the day is saved at least, you know, and this is kind of where the episode ends. And so Hippolyta's like, you know, hey, did we get it? And Chick is like, yes, we got it, as, you know, they're all breathing heavy and sweaty and stuff. And so the episode ends, and this ending, it's like we have the whole book of names, so that's crazy. Letty is invulnerable, and then Tick has the protection spell, and we have one episode left, guys. One episode left, and looks like they're going to be going up against Christina and Ruby. I hope Ruby gets her sense together, you know. But it was a good episode. And earlier I meant to bring this up because this episode took place in 1921, and I have this book right here. It is 1919, the year of racial violence, how African Americans fought back, by David F. Krugler. I got this about a month ago, maybe 5 weeks ago. I haven't read it yet, but like all of my friends was like, every time this book comes up, oh, it's fire, you got to read it, you got to read it. And so, you know, since, you know, this is the year of racial violence, 2 years prior to 1921, where black people was fighting back a little bit here too. I meant to bring that up in the actual recap, but I forgot. But guys, you know, I hope you liked the episode. I did. That is just my opinion, and thank you so much. I do appreciate you guys tuning in with me. We got one episode left. Like I said, if you like the video, please go ahead and give me the thumbs up. Also, subscribe to the channel. Please help me reach 30,000 subscribers. But what do you guys think is going to happen? What do you guys think is going to happen with Diana? Do y'all think that she's going to be healed? Do you think that Ruby is a super coon now that went over to the dark side, or that she's going to get her sense together? How do you feel about Montrose's character as well too? With everything that we see that he went through growing up, that has shaped, you know, who he is and as the man today. And do you think that Atticus is tripping? You think he's overstepping his boundaries? Do you think he's rude? Do you think he's mean? Let me know everything. Let me know all your thoughts about the show, my recap, breakdown, whatever. Just let me know down in the comment section below. Let's get this conversation going and keep it flowing. And I'm horrible at responding to all comments, but I'm going to get better at that. But guys, again, I just want to thank you all so much for tuning in. And before you go, don't forget to always chase your dreams, because I'm chasing mine. My name is Brandon Keith Avery, and that's just my opinion. Peace.